In this video, we're going to refer to page S501. Remember, S is for structural, A is for architectural, C is for civil. As we move throughout our drawing, we're going to take a look specifically at cross-section number 2, and this is for the north wall of building B and C, and we've been looking at building C. If we work our way up through, we're going to see our footer here, and there's a note here that tells us our footer is 2 feet by 1 foot, or 2 feet wide, 1 foot tall. Even though it doesn't show that, that's what the note is telling us. Here we have a perimeter drain. In this case, it's called a footing drain. Depends on who you talk to and what you call it. In this case, you're calling it a footing drain. That's actually a 6-inch piece of perforated pipe. It actually has rubber gaskets where it goes together. So this is a very rigid kind of pipe. I know that because I looked up in the specification manual how that goes together, and also looked at some civil drawings to see some details based on that. I also know that pipe has to be encapsulated with 6 inches of crushed stone all the way around it, wrapped in a piece of filter fabric. And that filter fabric, think of a fabric that allows water to go through, but allows very little dirt to infiltrate this, so this stays clean and allows the water to drain away from the building. This is a rendering of a foundation. You'll notice the footer is underneath the concrete wall. The footer spreads the load of the building out over a wider area. The concrete wall obviously holds the building up. To the left of the footer, you'll notice a pipe surrounded by stone, and wrapping around the stone is a piece of fabric. And that is what we saw when we looked at our footer drain. And the footer drain allows any water that infiltrates next to the wall to exit to daylight somewhere or go out from away from the foundation. As we move our way up through, we're going to see a piece of rebar here, and it says match vertical reinforcement. And if I move up a little bit, we'll see another note here that says typical ICF foundation. And remember, that's our insulated concrete form foundation wall reinforcement. It's telling us it's number 5 at 16 inches on center. Remember, those are 1/8 of an inch or 5/8 of an inch. Or we can alternate that, and not alternate, but change that and make it number 6 is at 24 inches on center. So there's an alternate here. We can either do 5s at 16 inches on center, or we can do number 6s at 24 inches on center. And remember, the number 6 is the number of 1/8. In this case would be 3/4. So that bar that's down here, this piece right here, has to match this specification. As I move up, we can find there are dowels. Again, that's a piece of rebar that would be stuck in the wall that ties the wall to the floor. If I keep moving up, we're going to find additional information, and what I want to focus on right here is this little bump out, this little piece that sticks out, and that is for our brick overhang. So they actually make a piece of insulated concrete form that looks like this. Here's a piece of insulated concrete form that forms a brick shelf. The left side of the concrete form is vertical. That's the inside of the wall. The outside bumps out to allow that brick to sit on something stable. And what that does is it gives a structural seat for this brick to sit here. It also tells us that brick has to overhang, so it has to stick out from that 5/8 of an inch. So there's a little spec and a little math that has to be done here. But basically, this is the foundation structure for our buildings, and it's pretty consistent throughout. The only other thing I want to point out is we run over here to section 8. So again, I'm on section 8. Up here, I can find there's a note that says 4-inch CMU below grade. That 4-inch CMU, that's a concrete masonry unit. That's actually a concrete block that holds the brick up, so that block sits on that seat, and then the brick sits on the block, so we don't waste our pretty brick underground. This is an example of a 4-inch CMU. The actual size is 3 5/8 thick, 7 5/8 tall, and 15 5/8 long. The reason it doesn't match the size is we separate CMU by 3/8 of an inch of mortar. So if you look at brick anywhere, you'll see there's 3/8 of an inch of gap between each CMU.